Welcome back to the Explainer. So today, we're actually going to skip our usual roadmap. I want to just immerse you right away in something incredibly profound. You see, we aren't starting in a manger here, and we're definitely not starting with the genealogy. We are stepping completely out of time, right into this kind of minimalist, ethereal atmosphere of the absolute beginning. We're exploring a text that has literally shaped human history for 2 millennia. It's a true spiritual masterpiece. Okay, let's dive right into this. The author just opens with an absolute cosmic shockwave. By echoing the very first words of the Genesis creation story, this text introduces Jesus, but not just as some historical figure, a carpenter from Nazareth. No, he's introduced as the cosmic origin. He is placed entirely outside of time. Before space, before matter, before time itself even began ticking, the Word already was.
Now, to really grasp the weight of that opening, we've got to look at this explosive Greek concept they used in the original texts, which is the logos. For ancient Jewish readers, the Word of God was this active, creative force, the literal force that spoke the universe into existence. But then, for Greco-Roman audiences, the logos was the unifying principle of reason and order. It was kind of like the divine intelligence that was just holding the entire cosmos together. So, by identifying Jesus as the Logos, the author was basically telling everyone, totally regardless of their background, that the very mind and power of God had literally taken on human form. How wild is that?
What's really fascinating to me, though, is how this super lofty, abstract theology just completely grounds itself right into our shared human experience. We all understand the human condition, right? We all grapple with the same pain points, searching for purpose, feeling lost in the dark sometimes, and ultimately facing the fear of death. The text directly acknowledges this deep spiritual darkness that's covering the world, and it recognizes that humanity is just desperate for a way out.
So, to solve this, the text makes this incredibly powerful distinction between 2 completely different types of life. First, there's bios, which is, biology. It's our physical existence. It's the beating of your heart, your physical functioning, just the normal sequence of your days. But then there is Zoe. Zoe is eternal, it's uncreated, it's spiritual life. It is literally the very life of God. And think about it, we aren't really just looking for physical survival, are we? We're desperate for something way deeper. We crave that vibrant, uncreated divine life, that Zoe, which this text argues Jesus alone possesses.
And that brings us to what we can call the paradox of light. This divine life persistently, and I mean persistently, invades our world. It shines a spotlight on the deep darkness of human ignorance and sin. But here is the incredible promise. The darkness absolutely failed to comprehend or extinguish that light. No matter what, it couldn't put it out. It's just this completely unstoppable invasion of hope. Now, the specific word used for this light is phos, and it means so much more than just, a physical photon of light. It represents real, spiritual, and moral illumination. We're talking about truth in stark contrast to falsehood, and reality in contrast to just pure illusion. So if you're out there searching for clarity in what is definitely a confusing world, the text presents receiving this phos, this light, as basically the only true antidote to spiritual death. Okay, so how does this light actually meet us in the real world? Well, this is where the core architecture of the Gospel's first half, which scholars actually often call the Book of Signs, becomes incredibly fascinating. The author builds this framework where that abstract theology we just talked about literally collides with very specific physical human needs. And he does this through 7 miraculous signs and 7 profound statements. Now, the crucial point here is that the author uses a very specific word for these events, semeia, which translates to signs. You see, these were not just random magic tricks designed to simply wow a crowd. Not at all. They were carefully calculated demonstrations. Every single miracle was a token, a clear indication pointing directly toward a much higher reality. They were specifically intended to reveal the true divine identity of Jesus to the people watching. Just look at how beautifully this is structured across the whole narrative. The author perfectly maps these physical miracles right onto metaphorical declarations. Just to name a few, Jesus multiplies actual physical bread to feed 5,000 people, and then he turns around and declares, "I am the bread of life." He heals a man who is literally born blind, and then declares, "I am the light of the world." He raises his friend Lazarus from the dead and states, "I am the resurrection and the life." You see what's happening? The physical provision acts as the undeniable proof of the spiritual reality. And these earthy metaphors are just brilliant, honestly, because they take this massive, infinite God and place him right smack in the middle of our everyday existence. I mean, imagine the smell of freshly baked bread, or the warmth of a glowing lamp when you're in a pitch-black room, or the safety of a secure doorway, or even the care of a shepherd. These everyday icons show exactly how Jesus meets us right where we are, offering real sustenance, guidance, protection, and life. But wait, we definitely can't overlook the two most important words in all of those statements: I am, or in the original Greek, ego eimi. Now, for the original audience hearing this, it was like a massive neon flashing hyperlink straight back to the Old Testament. Because back in Exodus chapter 3, God reveals his divine name to Moses at the burning bush as I am who I am. So every single time Jesus says I am, he is making this absolute, undeniable claim to divinity. He's literally saying that he is the uncreated God in whom all life resides. That's a huge claim.
So as we cross the halfway mark of the source material, the pace really starts to slow down, the public miracles end, and the whole tone shifts to something much warmer, much more highly intimate. We enter what scholars actually call the Book of Glory. And here, the impending crucifixion is entirely reframed. It's not viewed as some tragic defeat, but rather as the ultimate hour of exaltation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the really unique perspective of this text. Just look at the timeline of his final hours. It begins with the farewell discourse, with Jesus actually washing his disciples' feet like a lowly servant. Then, you have the arrest in the garden, where Jesus is portrayed as being in absolute sovereign control of the whole situation. And finally, the cross. Unlike other accounts that might focus heavily on the physical agony, this narrative frames the crucifixion as Jesus being physically and spiritually elevated, literally returning to the Father in glory. He is definitely not a helpless victim here. He's the sovereign author of his own exaltation.
This sovereign control really culminates in his final, very deliberate word on the cross, tetelestai. It means it is finished. Interestingly, it's actually an accounting term, and it signifies a debt that's been paid in full, a task that is fully completed. It essentially signifies this massive work of divine love that provides the ultimate, once-and-for-all solution to our spiritual darkness and our separation from God.
So you see, the entire narrative, and I mean from the cosmic claims of the prologue we talked about, through those 7 miraculous signs, all the way to that finished work on the cross. It's not just there to give us a neat history lesson. No, it is intentionally driving the reader toward a critical, deeply personal decision. It is, at its core, an invitation to faith.
Let's see how this all builds up to its grand climax. After the resurrection, Jesus actually appears to a pretty skeptical disciple, Thomas. And upon seeing the risen Jesus, Thomas just declares, "My Lord and my God." This confession brings the whole narrative beautifully full circle. Remember, the text started by telling us the Word was God, and right here, a human being finally recognizes and confesses that exact cosmic truth face to face.
Which brings us to the moment where the author just directly breaks the fourth wall. He speaks right to you and me, delivering what's basically his thesis statement for the entire document. He writes, "These are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, and that believing you may have life in his name." Everything we've covered in this explainer today, the logos, the signs, the I am statements, the cross, it has all ultimately been an invitation to experience radical transformation.
And so, we're really left with the ultimate question posed by the text. Now that you've seen the architecture, you've seen the signs, and you've heard the claims, what are you going to do with it? Will you move from merely absorbing this information to actually experiencing total transformation? Will you step out of the darkness and step into the light to experience this eternal, uncreated Zoe for yourself? The invitation is right there, just waiting for you. Dive into the source material for yourself and see exactly where the light leads you.